enjoying the Slam. I was at the Slam 4 years ago, and the level has improved so enormously, I wouldn't have had a chance this Slam. So hats off to all the Slammers and the actors in the sketches. I hope I've enjoyed it a lot. So, they've asked me back, I'm not sure why, but I wanted to talk about science, something that I should know maybe a little bit about. Science, the word, it's a beautiful word. The S's and the C's and the N's, it really just rolls off your tongue. Naturwissenschaft is also okay, it's a little bit longer, but you know what I mean. But science is also frustrating. So I think it's a valid question to ask, why? Oh why? Oh why? Oh why? Oh why? Oh why do we do it? And after having been a scientist for a long time, I'm still not sure, but I'd like to discuss some of the ideas. Now, I used to be a scientist. I started in 1972, a few years before this picture was taken. I continued coming to Basel when I was 40, in the middle, that picture in the middle. And this picture is now about 5 years ago when I was at the university. And if you look at those three pictures, you realize it's an absolute proven fact that shit happens. Now, I retired from my position at the university 3 months ago. And I have to admit, retirement isn't that great. I deeply miss the people in my lab. I miss the projects. I miss thinking about the experiments. I miss designing the experiments, interpreting the experiments, deciding what to do next. All the intellectual friendships that I had with the people in the lab, the people in my department, and the people in my field. But you really don't know how good something is until you use it. And in the last 3 months, I've been trying to really think about what science meant to me and what it might mean to all of us. So first, what is science? Now maybe you can define science if you know what a scientist does. So I took the German word for scientist, Naturwissenschaftlerin, and using Swiss German to back translate High German into English, I came to the following definition. Is someone who is working, so this Schaft, I thought was meant schaffen. And Wissen is then knowledge, to understand, and of course, Natur is nature. So somebody who is working to understand nature. That's fundamentally what a scientist is. And the paradigm is that you start being interested in something and you have some ideas about what the explanation will be, and you design and carry out experiments, and you see which ideas are right and which are wrong, and you try to keep improving and improving your understanding of what you're working on. Eventually, if after years or maybe a whole career, you might be able to stake out a tiny little piece of knowledge, something that is likely to be right. It's no guarantee. Somebody may publish a paper 6 months from now and say, oh, that was all wrong. But that is the goal, to try to stake out a tiny little piece of knowledge. And that's it. Because there are a lot of other things that are related to science and are equally challenging to science. But the basic elements of science, I think, are trying to understand something about nature and acquire a very small piece of knowledge. Why should we do it at all? You know, we could stop today and stop everything. We live pretty well. A lot of us will live to be 90 years old. We have enough resources. Maybe global warming is going to be a pretty big problem, but we've done pretty well all along. Why should we keep going? So one of the possibilities is, well, maybe I could get a job being a scientist. If it were so easy. Unfortunately, we've trained too many people, and to get a job is extremely, extremely difficult. You could think, well, I'll be a scientist and make a lot of money. Give me a break. You might as well go work in a bank. You make more money and the hours are much better. You could say, well, I want to be a scientist to help people, and this will make your mother very happy. But what are the chances? I mean, you have to somehow get lucky enough and everything has to break the right way that the thing that you work on will help people. It's a valid motivation, but the likelihood that this will be a reality at the end of your career is pretty low. You may say, I want to become famous, but you can take all the famous scientists in the entire world, stick them in the marketplace, and you would still have to remember that Kanye West and Kim Kardashian are much more famous than all those scientists. So that's not the reason. I think the reason is to acquire knowledge. There's something incredibly addictive and satisfying, deeply, deeply satisfying about going through the process, the challenging process of acquiring a little bit of knowledge. Now, there are things that are related to science. Technology, applied research, engineering, I don't want to undervalue these things. These are challenging, difficult. It takes a lot of brains to do that stuff well. But this is a little bit different from the pure acquisition of knowledge. Technology gives us great things that your cousins will understand. Technology has given us an iPhone, big airplanes, small cars, artificial hips, magnetic resonance imaging machines, Nespresso machines. It's fantastic. But this is all the realm of stuff. This is all things, stuff is great. I like stuff. I have an iPhone. I don't have an artificial hip yet, but I do have an iPhone. But we sometimes confuse the stuff with the science. Now, the usual paradigm is you start with an idea of something, and then if you test your ideas and finally build something that's a bit more solid, then you say, okay, now I have some knowledge. And once you have the knowledge, it becomes a little bit easier to then get the stuff. So this has happened many times in recent history, and over thousands of years of people who have been doing science. Alexander Fleming noticed that on a bacterial plate, that white blob was a mold, and that mold killed bacteria in the vicinity of where it was growing. And eventually, he figured out that it contained something called penicillin, and this gave rise to antibiotics. That single finding by itself extended our lifespan by about 20 years. Van der Arber from Canton Argo was studying bacteria and realized that some strains wouldn't allow the successful infection of a bacterial virus, and he hypothesized that these strains contained molecular scissors that cut the DNA of the invading virus. And his idea was correct. Those molecular scissors turns out to be restriction into nucleases, and that gave rise to genetic engineering, an enormous change in all of our lives in the last 40 years. And finally, Tim Berners-Lee, working at CERN, as a computer scientist, and he was interested in information management, so he wrote a few protocols to manage information. Well, that gave rise to the internet. So the next time you order a package from Amazon that will be delivered to your house by a drone within 24 hours, think about Tim Berners-Lee. None of these people wanted to solve the problems that they eventually ended up solving. They were just interested in why won't the bacteria grow next to the mold? And why won't some viruses grow in some other strains of bacteria? And how could Tim Berners-Lee manage information more intelligently with computer protocols? Now, if you go from ideas to knowledge and stuff, if you come at this from the point of view that the step going from ideas to knowledge is inefficient, first of all, it's hard. We don't know what the answer is, so we have to test these things out. And I think the second problem is that there is a slowness that we have in rejecting bad ideas and a slowness that we have in recognizing good ideas. We're just not sure if it's really true. So we have a hard time rejecting bad ideas and taking and adopting good ideas, identifying. And of course, going from knowledge to stuff is not easy. But once you have the knowledge, it's a little bit easier to get to the stuff. It's a bit more efficient. It's still not easy, but it's a bit more efficient. Now, if you come at this from a business angle, someone from a business background will say, why should we bother with the knowledge? It's just getting in the way. Why can't we go from ideas to stuff? Now, this kind of research usually is what I call throwing a bunch of crap on the wall and seeing what sticks. And sometimes you get the lucky punch. But the efficiency of getting the stuff, I think, goes down. And I would say, at least in my experience, that this is super inefficient. So you really can't have the stuff unless you have the knowledge. Or at least it's a lot easier to get stuff if you have the knowledge. So knowledge is power. Why? Because you can get stuff, which includes money. But knowledge is also beautiful. And whether you're studying that incredible, crazy bunch of crap that's inside the nucleus of an atom, or you're studying a gene that controls a cell, that controls a tissue, that controls an organ, that controls an organism like you or me. Or you're studying the universe and wondering, when did it start? What's going to happen? Will it reach a limit and collapse again? All these things are incredibly, seemingly complicated, but extremely beautiful. And I think the attraction of science is that you start out with something that seems very complicated, but when you get that click, suddenly everything gets very simple. And when you get the basic principle of how the thing works, then everything else is easy to understand. And there's something incredibly addictive about that process of trying to figure out how things work. Now you can imagine a scientist is sort of schizophrenically pulled in half. Because on one hand, what drives, I think, most scientists is the beauty. They want to know how things work. But to get the money, we have to tell the government and the university, oh, just let us do the knowledge and we'll give you the power. Maybe we can even found a startup or something like that, but that's what we hope will drive the economy and everything like that, but it's really divorced from the beauty, which is the thing that I think really motivates us. So I think we have to respect the beauty and the knowledge. It's at least as important as the power and the stuff. So the beauty of knowledge, and you really can appreciate the beauty of knowledge when you communicate with a colleague at a high level and then things are just happening in a beautiful way. And this is a human attribute that you would say is similar to the beauty of music or art or dance. And there's no way that any amount of funding or anything that happens will stop people from wanting to acquire knowledge. It would be like trying to stop people from listening or creating music or dancing or making art. This is really within us. And if you go back to the paradigm of ideas to knowledge to stuff, and you try to take out the knowledge, well, knowledge is fun. And everybody knows that if you don't have any knowledge, it's no fun. And why would you do something for a whole career or even for an afternoon that wasn't fun? So I think what drives us is the knowledge because it's fun. So to finish, I'd like to come to one last point. And that is, are we actually alone in the universe as the only intelligent group of beings? It's unlikely, but nobody really knows. The argument goes that, oh, the universe is so big, and there are many galaxies and solar systems and stars and planets. One of those planets should have the conditions to have generated life, and maybe those life forms are more intelligent than we are. But nobody knows. So it is finitely possible that we're the only ones that have evolved the intelligence to have abstract reasoning, to be able to do science. So if that's true, and we are alone, then if we don't look for knowledge, who will? In some ways, it's our responsibility to look for knowledge. Whether it has a profitable outcome or not, at the end, knowledge is good. Knowledge is the thing that is making us better as a species, as a culture, and as a civilization. And we should be proud of it. And with that, I'll stop. Thank you.